Mr. Shrikant Sinha, CEO of Telangana Academy of Skills and Knowledge, and Pankaj Diwan, please have a seat.
Share a little about the activities that TASK does and how it's helping the colleges and students and industry in ensuring that, what we've been talking since morning about the paradoxical situation where you have industry scrambling for talent and you have people worried about jobs and other things. So I would request you to first talk a little about TASK and then probably we can go further in the conversation.
Sure. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Pankaj and FTCCI and everyone involved in this program. Talking about TASK, I think the very simple thing that happened was when the state got bifurcated, 1,400 plus organizations were surveyed only to find out that the less than 10% locals were employed and the people who were employed were not meeting up to the expectations of the industry. And that's where TASK was created. 10 years forward, if you look at it, we have skilled close to about 9 lakh plus students. But skilling students isn't good enough unless until you skill the faculty members. 18,000 plus faculty members on pedagogy as well as technology, and we are industry agnostic, as I said. So we work with about 750 colleges, or should I say 750 colleges benefit from our programs. We work with 80 plus corporate partners all across India, offering 110 plus programs to all the colleges. And that's what TASK is today. Looking at our pillars, we have 3 pillars. Education, no, we don't run education institutions, but we look at the industry, we look at what the academia is providing, and if you look at the way we were set up, we were supposed to be a bridge between industry, academia, and the government institutions, and that's how TASK was set up. And that was our prime focus. But over the years, we have moved slightly. We have got a 2-pronged vision now. First is making our youth employable. So anything, and we don't have our logo here, but if you look at our logo, it's a tree, a learning tree, which has got a fruit on each and every branch, which means any initiative that we take has to result in either a livelihood, a job, or an entrepreneurial opportunity. The second is, of course, employability, where we, more than 500 plus organizations advertise their entry-level jobs on our portal itself, and they are able to get their students. So all across all industries we work with. And talking about the models are very simple. We sit over and above the academic curriculum, right? And students, we register colleges with us. And students in those colleges, I've got a team of about 35 faculty members who go and conduct classes over there. We also do virtual classes, but this is a laddered approach. So what we realized early on was that skilling in the final year doesn't make help. It's more like eating a 500 mg capsule before going for your medical examination. Doesn't help anyone. And that's where we staggered the entire learning approach. So just to give you a very rudimentary example, AutoCAD. We start with the basic AutoCAD in first year, second semester. Second year is user level. Third year is advanced or professional level. And that's typically how we run all our programs. They are staggered. We also do this thing which is a different kind of a thing. So apart from technology, we also talk about behaviors and we also talk about domains. So that's the kind of thing that we do. Second is more of a finishing school model, where we work with the industry vertical itself and ensure that we run short-term skilling programs along with industry partners or ourselves to skill for a particular industry. 70% of those people get placed. And the third is a very unique model and has played a huge part in the growing ecosystem of Telangana, is what we call as First Day, First Hour Productivity Program, where we work with a single organization itself. We customize the training program as per the requirement of that organization. If they are looking at about 50 people, we'll train about 100 to start with. We co-create the curriculum. And if I don't have the subject matter experts or the aircraft engines in my labs, I would much rather go and train on the shop floor of the industry itself, which has been a very, very successful model over here, because it's a win-win, as the Honorable Special Chief Secretary also was mentioning. Instead of a lose-lose, it has to be a win-win situation for all. So that is a helicopter view of what we do. Of course, I would like to also, since entrepreneurship was also being discussed, we run a very unique program called I4TS, Innovating for Telangana. And this runs with a punchline called Samajika Avashkaranalu Sarlamaina Jivitanki, Social Innovation for Simplifying Lives. This is a virtual program, as it was said that, entrepreneurship cannot be taught in a classroom. We run this program virtually, and instead of diving deep straight into the entrepreneurship development program, we have an innovation and entrepreneurship mindset creation program first, which is 7 weeks linked to the SDGs. And then, for example, last year, 20,584 students got, or youth got impacted, I should say. Anyone in the age group of 18 to 35 can enroll for this program in Telangana and undergo this program. The videos are available online, and I'm happy to say, Pankaj, that last year we got the Scotch Gold Award for this program as a unique initiative that was run. So we bring it down from 20,000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 5,000, 5,000 to roughly about 500 ideas of 1,500 people. Then they undergo a complete 20 weeks kind of a program, which is the entrepreneurship development, the mission model canvas, the business plans, and everything else. But we are slightly different again. Every startup, every entrepreneur wants themselves to be invested in, but they have never sold anything in their life. So we have a module in between called as Angdi or Mandi, where you actually have to go and sell something, because you can't teach consumer behavior in a classroom. You can't teach how to handle your first rejection, or what should you be selling, features, advantages, or benefits. And that's where we have a Karo and Sikho kind of a model built into between. So that is a helicopter view of what TASK does. Thank you.
Wonderful and very refreshing. So we've been discussing this in the past also. One of the things that I think we share as a common idea is about the whole concept of problem solving, hackathons and industry problems. And you saw today's initiative is very much based on that. Albeit it's not a one-day hackathon, it's a 6 months hackathon or an 8-month hackathon. I want to know from you, because again, you've worked so closely with colleges and students, what has been your experience in running these hackathon kind of programs? And do you think we are in the right direction in that sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think today the biggest problem is, and Pankaj, I think at the cost of repeating myself, you have of course heard it multiple times, and some of the college people also would have heard this, but I ask a question to every college or any student that I meet in any forum, which is, if I have to empty the Indian Ocean using a bucket, how much time will it take, right? And believe you me, 99% of the people say, oh, it cannot be done, right? Because the problem is they don't look at logical thinking. Computational thinking is just not there, right? Simple problem, size of Indian Ocean, size of bucket. If the size of bucket is as big as the Indian Ocean, it will take a couple of seconds only, right? But that thinking process is not there. Unfortunately, our educational institutions also today are only teaching syntaxes. And that is where the biggest challenge comes in. As a result of which, what you said in the beginning itself, we are creating, I don't want to use the word glorified clerks kind of a word, but yes, we are only creating people for the service and operations industry in IT. We are not having product mindset. And for creating that product mindset, it is important to have computational thinking, foundations, focus on the foundation. Today it's Python, tomorrow it will be Cobra, then what? Again you will go and learn the syntaxes. And that is the challenge, and that's where I think this kind of a solution that got discussed today is going to be the solution. Because, and Sir, Dr. Professor Desai, to answer your question also, I think hackathons are the best way, because today research, as you rightly said, research academia takes time, industry wants it as of yesterday. Hackathons probably are the best way, sir, to bring the best of the academia as well as the industry mentors with the brightest of minds to solve problems. And that is what is most important. solving hackathons, doing something, creating, getting 1,000 people in a room in your college, etc., to solve a problem for 2 days is good. But then what? What next? I think it's important to have a sustained kind of a thing, right? As Professor Saab also said, you don't create things, it is built over time. That's where it is most important, that we should have a sustained kind of a thing. And today, if we look at it, 60% of our students who are in college, their parents haven't been to college, right? They're first generation learners. So the role that mentors would play over here, right, as part of the platform, as part of Talent Farm and this initiative, I think would be very, very useful for these kids to help them. We come from a very simple standpoint. If you can't stand the sight of blood, you should not become a doctor or join the defense forces. Correct? Attrition today in the industry is high because of only one reason. It's bear chal, it's herd mentality. Everyone follows. If my peer pressure is also there, if you want to call it that way, yes. But yes, it's the same thing. Look at your competencies, look at your skills, your abilities, etc. And then if you are able to do it, right, and you can skill people. And that's what we have seen always, right? So you should have for example, just 30 seconds, so I'll take more. Safran, when they were setting up their aircraft manufacturing facility over here, we looked at not only the skills but competencies, right? So hand dexterity, 3D visualization, spatial thinking. These were the competencies that were required over there. We didn't select students. They were wanting aeronautical engineering. We took them to the polytechnics, diploma students, electronic and mechanical. And what we did was we gave them nuts and bolts, how quickly you could fasten them, unfasten them, right? There was a sheet on which there were 5 pins, 4 pins, etc. in different orientations. They had plastic discs. They had to keep it over there. So what we checked was how, what are your competencies which will help the aircraft industry. As a result of which, out of these people were creating cable harnesses for the aircraft engines. Out of the first 1,000 cable harnesses that were sent to France, not even one got rejected. Of course, I don't have competencies on aircraft engine training, etc. So Safran, our partner under the first day first half productivity, trained those people, and none of them got rejected. As a result of which Telangana also benefited. We got a 1,500 crore MRO opening over here. So I think, it's practical trainings, helping people apply their mindsets under the guidance of a mentor is what actually is the game changer.
I think there are 2 or 3 things running in my mind even as you're talking about this. One is we can probably use this platform to advise all the colleges that we have to now think beyond hackathons, because I remember distinctly in 2014, a group of us, we call ourselves Hyderabad Hackers, we got together and created a hackathon, open hackathon, where almost 50 colleges had participated. This was with Computer Society of India. Vaishali was part of that group, couple of others who are here were part of that group. And then over a period of time, that was then to bring the culture of hackathon. Those were days when we had to explain to some of the principals that hackathon is not a bad word. It's not like security hacking. It's, to build something quickly. But then now I think it's become a common knowledge, and thanks to Smart India hackathons and so many other hackathons, it's a very common thing. I think now is the stage to graduate to what I probably call as product-a-thon. Pick the best ideas of the hackathon and make it into a 6 months to 9 months sustainable initiative so that it actually becomes a product and sees the light of the day. And the benchmark for that has to be that people use it or people pay for it, right? Unless people pay for it, you're always going to get some guests from the industry who will come and say very good, because you've invited them. They also want to be good to the students, so they'll say very good, and then we all take solace in that. I think we have to go beyond that, stretch the benchmark and say, now if it's good, pay for it, and then you'll really know the feedback, whether it's worth paying or not. I think I would request all the colleges and students here, because I know students are now so active, they conduct hackathons on their own. Ensure that at the end of the hackathon, someone is paying for that. If they are paying for it, then it's worth it. Otherwise, make a 6 months deadline that in 6 months it will be developed to a stage where it can be paid. The second thing I think that you were talking about is also very interesting, where it is about how all the partners come together, because none of us are self-sufficient. And I think that's where the partnership with FTCCI and Task, or FTCCI T-Hub, FTCCI T-Works, because in individual capacity, I think all the organizations have been trying to do something. I know of so many mentors sitting here in the first row who in their individual capacity have been doing a lot. Whenever we meet them, whenever we talk to them, they say, we're working with a bunch of students. I think it's time to get together and make it as a force multiplier. And finally, the concept of mentors, which earlier Professor Desai was also talking in terms of professor of practice or mentor. Like Sadhguru says, mentor is like GPS, Guru Positioning System. I think we all need a mentor in our life, right? Because they provide the direction, and they are like role models who create fuel in our body. Can I become even 5% of this person? I mean, every time I meet someone like Professor Desai, that's what is the excitement I get, right? Can I become even 5% of this person? And that's what drives us to doing things. So I'm glad that you brought these points. Sir, I would also like you to dwell a little about this whole concept that we are trying to launch, where we want a continuous dialogue between the industry and academia. And even as I'm saying this, I hate to call this as industry academia. I wish we can come up with a new term where it's one team, Team India or Team One kind of a thing, where we have student representatives also, college representatives also, and some of the industry. So we would request Task also to support, facilitate this.
Sure. I think very valid points, and of course what you said is talking about process of practice. Task was the first to start this as a process itself, and if you look at the Niti Aayog best practices 3 years ago, they spoke about process of practice over there also, because we have been using it, and of course Professor Desai was a governing council member earlier on of Task, so he's very much aware of it. And coming to the second part of it, I think there are certain things that we as industry and academia have to avoid to make this collaboration happen. Today, the very first thing when a person from a college, an academic institution meets an industry, is he will say, can you come to my college for a campus recruitment, right? And that is the first place where you have drawn a line, because the industry thinks that you will keep on pestering him till he comes there, right? Instead of that, if we change our conversation and say, can you please come and interact with our students? It's a different story altogether, right? I think the reason why this has not moved, and absolutely right, we've been talking about academia and industry collaborations, and we'll keep on talking till the cows go home, but point is, we have to change our mindsets itself. And that is what is most important from both the points, right? Today, at least thanks to hackathons, and if we are talking about sustained hackathons or industry chairs that are there in multiple institutions, like institutions of repute, IITs, etc., have got the industry chairs, right, where they fund for research. Now, if those kind of things keep on happening, I think the involvement of industry will automatically increase in the academic institutions. Second thing is, I think academic institutions also need to realize that research, of course, as I always keep on saying, for good music, you need musicians which are skilled, right? But you also need the Bachs and the Beethovens, the researchers, without which good music will never happen, right? And that's where it is important for the academia to stop doing academic research, but look at industry-oriented research, and that is where things will change. Because I think that's when people, today what is happening is, you need an interpreter to talk between these two, because these two people are talking different languages. And that is what this cell has to do. The cell has to play the part of an interpreter, but at the same time helping both the parties to understand that, look, these are some of the words of that party and these are some of the words of this party, ensuring that they start talking in a common language. And the thing is, today, academic institutions have to look at their students also differently, right? Because if we talk about the future, No one can predict the future, right? People tried and they failed miserably. But the fact still remaining is that we are in a, I'm sure some of you would have seen a boat race, right? When you start rowing, you are sitting opposite to the direction in which you are moving. And that is what is happening right now. Academic institutions have to involve the industry because industry is the fastest to accept change. Universities, etc., move at a glacial pace, right? Industry can only guide you and tell you what could be the future. For example, if I look at it, AI, ML, and all these base technologies, IoT, 5G, etc., are going to be the foundation. And all other technologies are going to be on top of it. That is what IR 4.0, 5.0 is going to bring. How many of our educational institutions today, the professors are even aware or have gone to a manufacturing facility? I'm not talking about IT right now, I'm talking about manufacturing, right? And if you look at, okay, let me talk about automobile engineering, right? How this field has completely changed. You need to know about cell, so you need to have chemistry, right? You need to know mechanical engineering because at the end of the day it's a moving part. You need to know cyber security because someone can hack your audio system because all cars are connected and know where you are going for your dinner. You need to understand AI ML because the battery which is generating the power has to get, it's going to use an AI logic, an ML logic. You need to know about electronics and electrical because distribution has to happen. Earlier you need to have only ICE knowledge and that was it. And that is where industry today needs to be part of all academic boards and play a real part over there in ensuring that curriculum changes. We have to change the curriculum, as of yesterday. And that is where industry can play a part. Of course, academia into research, into helping test beds. If you are trying something new, the colleges have got so many students. Industry looks at group discussions, etc. But have you ever looked at the college as a test bed for doing your group discussions, etc., trying out your technologies, trying out your various things? We have not been looking at common goal of how we can support each other, and that's there. And task will be absolutely, as our definition says, a bridge between academia, industry, and the government institutions. Happy to play that part.
Thank you, sir. No, and I'm glad that, and I just want to re-emphasize the point that I think as academia, we should get smart to sell our value proposition in a much better way, rather than looking at ourselves as a seeker. I think if we can present ourselves as an equal and say that this is what we can offer, this is what is our students offering, this is what is our offering, I think it makes a lot of difference. I think that language and that has to change. And as we were talking about the complicated technologies, Manish and me were exchanging smiles to say, thank God we completed our engineering before it got complicated. Because I think it's very tough for these kids here because they have to learn what we learned also, and they have to learn what is present and future also. So I think life is becoming very complicated for them.
I think they need to focus more on the basics, right? There's only one building called Hawa Mahal, which is a building without foundation, right? So ensure that your foundations are more strong, and that is more important.
So, but we're taking a little liberty here. The problem is you will talk about basics, and next session Rajesh will come and talk about blockchain and Web3. And Avnish will talk about cloud and say everything is on the cloud.
So if your basics are strong, I think all that.
So I am on student side, sir. I am confused, thoroughly confused.
No, I think technologies will keep on changing, right? It doesn't matter, but if your basics are strong, right? And today, so let me just digress a bit for a minute. If you look at it earlier, the skilling used to be a T-shaped, right? Where you knew a lot of things, but you had your domain expertise in one single area, right? Moving ahead, skilling will be a pie. You will know a lot of things. You would have your domain expertise in one single area, and the second would be all your things, what we call as 21st century skills, leadership skills, higher order thinking skills, growth mindsets, AI, ML, cloud, blockchain, cyber security, all these things would come over there. And plus, here is the best part, you also need a subdomain. And that is how things are going to move now, right? So skilling is going to be very different than the skilling that we know today. In fact, you are saying the students are confused. If I'm given a wish today to be reborn, I would like to be born as a youth in this generation and this age. The kind of opportunities, the kind of technologies, the kind of things that are available today, they can, really change the world.
Absolutely. No, I share that with you, and we can go on with this conversation forever, but in the interest of time, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much for your time and for your views, and I'm sure it was very thought-provoking for all the kids.